Hello and welcome to another edition of Aztecs All In. We're the podcast that is all in on anything having to do with Aztec athletics at San Diego State University. And Louis, this particular week, it's all about the retirement of head coach Brady Hoke.
It is, Steve. It's a sad day, but also an exciting day to look ahead for what's the future of Aztec football.
That's right. In this episode, we will hear from his players, Garrett Fountain and Martin Blake, on what having him as a head coach has meant to them and their careers. We will have athletics director J.D. Wicker on what he has meant to the program. And he also waxes nostalgic about Brady Hoke's time in the program the second time around. The man himself gives some quick insight into what type of person should follow him in the job, even though, as he said, is above his pay grade. And something, by the way, the Aztecs playing Long Beach State in basketball. So with all of that, Louis, we're going to talk about Brady Hoke's retirement.
Yeah, we had this special podcast yesterday, Steve, where we heard from Hoke. We have not yet heard from the players. This is a difficult situation for them. They've had a really rough season, not at all the season they were expecting to have. And with just 2 games left, they get word that their coach, the guy they followed, have played hard for all season, is leaving. So difficult time for them. They have to play hard the final 2 games, but at the same time, it's a tough deal for them.
Yes, and in that room today, Garrett Fountain, Martin Blake, both spent a lot of time around the coach. And, I got a great feeling of affinity on both sides. I mean, Brady Hoke really cares about the players. If something's going on in their lives, I think Garrett Fountain mentioned after he got something going on, he'll be the first one to help him through that and maybe give him some time off if he needs to skip a meeting or something else to deal with a family issue. Martin Blake, of course, the walk-on who was awarded a scholarship earlier this year, it was also very emotional in terms of how he thought about Brady Hoke, as we'll hear.
Yeah, Steve, and Garrett and Martin were nice enough to spend some time with the media today and share their thoughts about what it was like the moment they found out that Brady Hoke was retiring.
Coming in that morning, knew something was definitely off, and just really from my perspective, it was one of those moments where you kind of bummed. I've had the privilege to be around him all 5 years that I've been here. He was a D-line coach the first year, obviously, and then the head coach for the last 4. And I've learned nothing but a ton from that man, and just seeing the emotion of him and me being a little bit emotional myself, just because maybe things haven't gone the way we wanted this year. So it was just a little emotional, really.
Like you said, we knew something was up coming into that workout, and it was just, prepare to hear something. And having him leave for the time I've been here, that's like my best friend. That's my guy. I always told him we like this. That's my guy. So just seeing him, I know he poured a lot into this program, and he created this culture, with him and Coach Hall and stuff, and just we're going to keep it pushing no matter what, and keep that culture trying and strive for him, and keep going these last 2 weeks with him, and try and battle it for these last 2 weeks. Send him off on a high note.
So those are a couple of fine young men, and the Aztecs are continuing to recruit what they hope are going to be fine young men, also football players at this point. Brady Hoke mentioned that they have 9 to 12 players who are already committed to come to San Diego State. And in his view, and as you listen to them, it's been one about them contributing as football players, but also about how they will develop into potentially fine husbands, fathers, people who will contribute to their community once it's all said and done.
Yeah, and you could say that might be the most important thing to Brady Hoke is how these guys live their lives following their college football careers. For athletic director J.D. Wicker, he is looking for another new coach after just a few years, although Brady Hoke was already on staff when Rocky Long left, so that was a pretty easy hire. But for J.D. Wicker, this has not been the greatest of years, especially in the aftermath of the whole conference fiasco saga where the apparent move to the Pac-12 disintegrated before his very eyes. But today he talked very kindly of Coach Hoke and what Coach Hoke meant to this program.
Appreciative for what he, did, one with that first stint, and then, turning it over to Rocky, who he had brought on his staff, and, Rocky took it to another level. And then to come in back with, gosh, we hired him in January of 20, I think it was. Is that right? And immediately step into COVID. And all that we did in that time frame. So really thankful for what he's meant for this program. A lot of time fans only see the wins and the losses. I got to experience it day to day, what Brady Hoke meant to this team. And again, you go back to, he gets the job and immediately go into COVID, and running a athletic department, running a football team during COVID with all the hoops that we put on, the number of times that we had to test. You had to stand 6 feet apart before you could go to practice, very regimented practice schedules. And yet we still played football. I mean, we figured out how to, get to Boulder, Colorado and play Colorado in about 48 hours.
Yeah, that was a low point, I thought, in athletics all around the country. The idea that you're playing a football game, but then you had this mysterious disease that was in the air, and suddenly you couldn't have full contact with anyone. And on the football field, eventually they did get to the point where they're actually playing games, didn't they? They played football throughout that because that's what we do in the country, right? We keep going on. We don't just all come to a dead stop, even though we did at that point. Anyways, the Aztecs, I guess, went 4-4 in that period, and it was a little bit semblance of normalcy to get back and seeing football on the field at that point.
Yes, Steve, those are difficult times back in COVID and sports and trying to get back on the field. And San Diego State, of course, eventually did. And when they did, they were winning and primarily doing it with defense. And that has been the case for the past decade with Rocky Long and then Brady Hoke. San Diego State winning a lot of games with great defense. Of course, they've had some great running backs as well. So the question now, Steve, as San Diego State moves forward, is what type of head coach will they be looking for? J.D. Wicker said today, offense, defense, it doesn't matter to him as long as it's the right person. But I think whatever that is going to go a long way in showing what kind of success San Diego State has in the future.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions that I asked along those lines. And the first one went to the man himself, Brady Hoke, who gave the standard line. But when I pressed, tried to get a little bit more out of him about the type of person, got a little bit more detail on that.
I have no idea. That's beyond my pay grade. And, and frankly, it's not a decision that I need to make.
What sort of attributes?
Well, you want somebody with character. And it's got to start there. Kind of person you want to have. There's really good coaches who have really bad character. And so San Diego State deserves better than that.
Played the game anyways, and you might say that had that whole episode not gone on, they might be owning another Mountain West Conference championship. So there was a lot of ups and downs and adversity that the Hoke head coaching slot the second time around went through, from the COVID to another thing that had to do with Amanda Riza that J.D. Wicker talked about. So there was a lot of burnout, I guess, that J.D. referenced because of just all the hoops that you had to jump through in those situations.
Yeah, and Brady Hoke held it all together, right? He was the leader. He was the one the players looked to for guidance during the difficult time. And of course, with that 12-2 season and the success he had, he got a contract extension through 2027. So that's why it's a bit surprising suddenly San Diego State looking for another coach. And as we mentioned last in our podcast, our emergency podcast or special podcast about the retirement, is the situation with Hoke that if Aztecs were winning this season, I don't think we'd be having this conversation about finding a new coach, but that's where we are.
Also, if the stadium was full of season ticket holders and were still involved, but you have those two situations. You have the one conference win, only 3 on the season, and you have the double whammy of all these alumni who are saying, we have this brand new stadium, let's get a team out there that's worthy of attending, and that put the pressure on.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be lowering season ticket prices to try to get those fans back. With the new coach, it's a reset for the program, trying to get fans excited. And JD Wicker talked a little bit about a future coach, huh, Steve?
Sure. Just one more thing about the Hoke departure and the package, because he was asked about how that was all going to be handled financially. And basically, JD said there's a retirement severance package that they are in the process of working through right now, but that does mean that the departure will be a retirement, and that means that financially the Aztecs will most likely not be liable to fulfilling the entire terms of the contract, and it will be funded through athletic department dollars. Getting on to the subject of the replacement now, asked JD about potential hires and how they're going to be going about it and what type of a person they're looking for. And one question I had at the beginning, and he'll answer it in this compilation. First of all, how much does showmanship play into all that? And what other sort of qualities will they be looking for in this new head coach?
I don't know that it's that big of a deal. I want a good football coach. I want someone who wants to come in here and, there's a culture within this building. So it's important to find someone who is going to come in and want to be a part of our culture, our Aztec athletic department culture. That they want to do it the right way, that it's not just a football job. Your job is to take 18 to 22-year-old young men, coach them up really well so that if they can get into the NFL, they have that opportunity. But you also have to take an interest in their academic side, and you also have to take an interest in the life skills side, because that's who we are and that's what we do. I'm not leaning on someone that's offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, head coach, coordinator. One thing that'll be important, we've won championships with defense here, but we also need to be better offensively. And I'm going to be interested in, if it is a defensive minded head coach, what's your offensive, what's your plan? Who are you going to hire? What type of offense do you want to run? Because, we want to generate some excitement. We want to continue getting, more people in the stadium. I can't remember who asked the question earlier. I think it was you, Hacksaw. We were approving season ticket pricing today with our intercollegiate athletics committee. And so we'll be ready to roll with renewals and new season tickets. We've heard from the fan base that they think, tickets are too expensive and, with what's happening on the field. So hopefully we'll have a good combo, with new head coach coming in, and then with the ticket pricing that we're going to put out there. My expectation is, everything I've heard from people, they're not really going to have an excuse not to show up next year. So I'm looking forward to a full building. We'll continue working on game day experience. The river park's going to be open, so you're going to be able to tailgate instead of on asphalt, nice grass area, and we'll work on ways to make that attractive. So the stadium continues to, game day experience continues to grow, and that's going to continue to happen as we build out Mission Valley. So we'll continue to find new opportunities there for people to enjoy the entire game day experience.
As far as specific candidates, one of the obvious candidates that came up within the program is Ryan Lindley. That is an issue that is not going to be addressed. He did say he did not want to discuss specific candidates. Have heard from outside the program that maybe we got to bring in someone who's a little closer to the player's age so they have more of a feel. And in that point of view, a guy like Ryan Lindley, maybe, come on, you can say that guy's too old? Come on.
If you were to ask the fans, Steve, if they wanted an offensive or a defensive minded coach, what do you think the fans would say?
I don't know, but JD says that every year they pay attention, right, to who's doing what. So they are getting no shortage, I'm sure, of inquiries. And it will be a job that will, according to JD, as he addressed the media questions, that will hopefully approach a package that's on par with the top echelon of the Mountain West as far as payment.
What JD also said is the fans have no excuse now not to come out next year because, they've got rid of Hoke, right? That's what fans were clamoring for. And they're going to have a new coach and new excitement. So he says the fans need to come out. So we shall see.
Yeah, and listening to Martin Blake about that whole situation, he says that you never know what is going to be the little thing that you're going to get to help propel you and your team to victory. So if it is a cheer or a scream to somebody at the right moment to see if that helps. So Garrett Fountain wasn't all that big on fans and got used to playing games with barely anybody there because of the Carson years and the whole COVID thing. So for someone like him, that's his point of view. Once the game gets going, you get tunnel vision and you don't care. As far as I'm sure our personal experience, you do like to feel like you're part of a bigger crowd. It's much different experience being inside Viejas, albeit it is a much smaller venue. It fits much fewer people. But it would be a great thing to one day see the Aztecs experience that full home field advantage with a sold-out stadium and them giving the opposing team what for when they have the ball.
I agree. And fans will have one last chance to thank Brady Hoke and cheer him onto his retirement a week from Saturday at home against Fresno State. But there's a game before that, Steve. This Saturday,
this game.
San Diego State, San Jose State. Spartans host the Aztecs. They're looking for their 5th win in a row, which is the most consecutive wins they've had since the 2020 season. They're coming off a 42-18 win over number 25, Fresno State. Spartans look to become bowl eligible for the 3rd time in the last 4 seasons. And over those time before that, Steve, San Jose State has not been very successful, but they have really turned it around.
If you think about it, they were the last team to win the Mountain West Conference from the state of California, and Fresno State was another one. So the Aztecs would really love to be spoilers in this situation, but it also shows you the potential that they have. Now, they have that quarterback formerly from Hawaii out there running around, and Brady Hoke did say it feels like we've been playing him forever. Also, San Jose State reeled off 3 straight touchdowns in the first quarter, so the Aztecs are going to need a fast start from their own offense. The defense has been playing relatively well. It's going to be up to the offense, I think, to keep them in this one.
Yeah, the defense, though, will have to stop senior Kyrie Robinson. He ran for a career-high 200 yards against Fresno State and added 2 touchdowns on the way to his 2nd Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week award this season.
All right, terrific. So that's enough about football. We move on really quickly to basketball, where the women's basketball team took its first win of the season in front of a home crowd. They rallied to beat UC Davis on Monday night. Down by 8 halfway through the 4th quarter, they went on to win. Going on one of your favorite things, Lewis, a 22-5 run, and ended up winning 77-68. They are going to now play 2 p.m. Saturday at Sacramento State.
Is that the equivalent of a football chunk play?
Something like that. Now, right in the middle of the Sacramento State, the opponent. Now, Sac State made the NCAA tournament last season. We will have the winner of that game included in next podcast coming up, which will take place after the San Jose State game. One more thing, as long as we're on bantering about here, Lewis. Did you know what the nickname is for Sacramento State?
The Banshees.
No, they're the Hornets. And did you know they have a commonly used phrase, and you know what it is?
I do not.
Hornets. It's Stingers Up. Stingers Up.
That would make sense.
Now, guess what the mascot is for the Hornets?
A hornet.
Well, it's not just any hornet.
The Green Hornet.
No, you kind of wish it really would be cool to have that. But no, it's Herky.
Okay.
Herky the Hornet. Now I went on the website just to look this up because they have a different rallying cry when you look up all the approved things from Sacramento State. They have something that's a little bit more refined, in that one. And what do you think? What would you say, the California State University's approved statement would be for this?
I have no idea, Steve, but I think you're going to tell me.
Oh, come on. Why wouldn't you? Well, just think about the most, majestic. Redefine the possible. We will redefine the possible when we come up next with some results of the Aztecs game against Long Beach State.
The Aztecs beat Long Beach State 88-76 to go 2-1 on the season. While the Aztecs never relinquished the lead, they led wire to wire. This was a tight game most of the way. At one point in the second half, Long Beach got within 3, but a couple of their guys fouled out, and the Aztecs were able to pull away. It was an offensive show for the Aztecs. Jaden Ledee led the way for the Aztecs with 27 points. All 5 starters scored in double figures. Aztecs got just 8 bench points compared to Long Beach State, which got 27. But, Steve, it was all about the Aztecs' offense tonight. They were able to shoot the ball well, and it paid off big time.
It was a sort of a game that you expected the Aztecs would win because it was a home game. They were playing Long Beach State, and we'll hear from Brian Dutcher later about how he was concerned about it. But it was one of those games that the crowd got together, and a couple of notes. Peter Seidler, the Padres chairman of the board, the owner, was paid tribute to because he passed away at the age of 63 after a couple of battles with cancer. He was that kind of person who was very kind and generous. And then the other note I have about the game is the Aztecs appeared in their blue uniforms. It's Native American Friendship Month, and the Kumeyaay Indians here in San Diego have a long and proud heritage in this area. So those were 2 little colorful notes I thought that were important in the overall scheme, in the big picture, as opposed to just a game between 2 teams in college.
Long Beach was able to keep it close pretty much due to the Aztecs' turnovers, and there were a lot of them. Aztecs finished with a whopping 18 turnovers, but so did Long Beach State. But the Aztecs were able, again, with the offensive show, pull this one out. Here's what Coach Dutcher had to say after the game.
A good win. I mean, I was nervous about Long Beach. They got a good team. They're picked to finish second in their league. They got experience. They got size, strength. They're well coached. And I thought we did a good job adjusting as the game went on. And it's early in the season. You know, we saw a 1-3-1 zone, a tandem 2-3. We saw a 3-2 zone. Saw a 3-quarter court press. We saw full court press. And you practice, but you can't practice for everything. So I put out one of the things on the board is just adjust to what's going on. Because they double ball screen, sometimes they don't, sometimes they switch. And so we can come up with plans, but sometimes players just have to make plays. They have to adjust to what's going on the floor. And I thought we did a good job of that.
Some spectacular highlights in the game tonight, including 2 monster dunks from Micah Parrish and a behind-the-back pass from Lamont Butler. But it was another play that had the Aztec players talking after the game, huh, Steve?
Yeah, I gave Micah Parrish the individual highlight of the game for that one play where he, block a shot, and then headed down the court with the ball and slammed it home. The other play that caught my eye in that first half was by Darrion Trammell, who logged some more valuable minutes after nursing that sore left shoulder. And it was the assist of the game where he's under the basket, he gets a pass lobbed inside, and he has 2 Long Beach State guys on defense right on him. He cannot do anything with the ball. I'm sure he would love to shoot it from right there, but what does he do? He snaps it like a long snapper. It goes to Ledee, and Ledee will put that home for an easy bucket. So that was one of his 6 assists, and asked both the players that we talked to after the game, Reese Waters and Lamont Butler, and also got Coach Brian Dutcher's take on that whole sequence.
I've never seen it before. I loved it though.
What did you think when you saw it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's crazy to pull that off in the middle of the paint. He stole from my bag because I think I did that last year. So he kind of watched me, so I appreciate him.
He might have a career as a long snapper in the NFL. You know, he didn't have to hike it more than a foot this time, but I think he's capable. So, yeah, I've never seen a play like that where a guy passed it between his legs for a layup. So, that I've coached a long time. That might be the only time I've ever seen that. Well, if Lamont did it, it was probably a turnover. So, I don't know if that's true or not. Lamont had a great behind-the-back pass today, too. So, I like the guards. They're finding their teammates, and that makes us better.
Whoever and wherever it came from, like Dutcher said, it's any kind of assist is good in his book.
Yeah, I've never seen something like that before. That was really fun to watch. And Aztecs, good crowd today, and they pull out the win. They are 2-1 on the season.
And so the Aztecs will then join the Vegas crowd for the Vegas Showdown. That's at St. Mary's in Las Vegas, November 17th. So looking forward to some basketball from Vegas.
That'll do it for this edition of Aztecs All In. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also reach us at aztecsallin@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the X, formerly known as Twitter, Aztecs_all_in. For Steve Perez, I am Louis Weiner. Until next time, so long.